Hey guys, I'm back. I just got home from work and we're kind of screwing around in the shop tonight. And I just got done forging a bunch of spoon carving knives or spoon carving gouges, little ones and small ones, and did a little grinding on them. I thought, well, we'd go back to working on this for a little bit. I took everything off of it now. Everything's off of it except for this pulley down here, which I can take off here in a second. No big deal. And everything came apart nice and easy, nice and smooth, no problems. Everything was loose. The only thing that I had trouble with, which is sort of funny, get this off. Yeah, the last pulley off. The only pulley I couldn't get off is this one here, which I will get that off at some point. But for right now, I'm probably just going to clean it up and leave it on there. I will just tape that off when I go to paint it. But I got this one moving nice and free. The other one's in thinner right now because I got the grease fitting off of it. I heated it up with the torch a little bit, took the grease fitting off of it, realized that the inside of that looked like it had a hard plastic in it, which was the old grease. It was just hard as a rock. So I filled up the bucket of thinner. It just kept the grease fitting out of it and soaked the whole top part of that pulley system into that. And that's where it's been soaking for a couple of days. When I get ready to paint the arm and stuff on it, I'll take it out and all that stuff and clean it up. But right now, we're just going to leave it soak. Did some looking around in the shop. Realized I have three cans of gray machine paint or machine colored paint. So that's the color this is going to end up being. So that's what we're going to do. Next project is I'm going to take this thing just outside the garage before it gets too dark. Probably turn the shop lights on and scrub this thing up with thinner and a paint toothbrush, and just scrub it all down because I got oil all over it now, and we got to get all that off so the paint will stick. And then I'll bring it back in, probably wire brush it a little bit, and wire brush this pulley, make it kind of look new again, and then tape this off, tape this spindle off, and probably stick something inside here so I don't get any paint inside this, and then give the whole thing a coat of paint. Hardest screws on the whole thing to take off this thing were the 4 wooden screws in the base that went into this piece of wood base. I had to actually take a sawzall and cut the back 2 screws off and then pry this thing off the base. They wouldn't budge. I couldn't get them loose at all. So, no, there you go. Wood and steel. I guess that's not such a bad combination. Still haven't found a pulley for it. Still looking. Probably be looking for a while. But when we find one, we'll get one on it. But for right now, we're just going to use that pulley just to get this thing going a little bit. So let me get toothbrush and thinner out, and we'll start giving this thing a scrub down. Okay, guys, so I'm back. So I got toothbrush and a little tiny wire brush, and basically just scrubbing it down with the thinner. Get all the grease off of it, and just get this thing cleaned up real good. I'm not going to sit here and make you guys watch all this because it is what it is. We're just trying to get all the old oil off of it, all the old grease off of it, and so the paint will stick. So let me get back with you. Okay, so got this thing all doused down in thinner, and I'm gonna take it out, run it off, hose it off real quick with a garden hose, get some of this stuff off, and we'll bring it back in here and see what it looks like. By the way, I'm using the new tripod mount for the iPad, so we'll see how this video turns out. And again, I apologize for some of the crappy videos from before. I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back. So it's kind of started. I brought it back in the house, just rinsed it off. wiped it off real quick with a towel just to try to get some of the moisture off of it. It's still wet, but most of all of the grease is off of it now. Next thing I'm going to do is put a little wire brush in my cordless drill, and I'm just going to go over this thing and just kind of you know, do a little more cleanup on it as far as making sure there's any loose paint or anything like that on it. It'll take it off. And then after that, I'll just let this thing dry out really good. And then I'll take a nice clean rag with some paint thinner on it, and I'll just wipe this whole thing down with paint thinner. So let me go ahead and hook up the cordless drill with a some kind of wire wheel. Got to see what I got around here. Okay, so I got cordless drill here, and I got this wire wheel and this little wire wheel, and this ought to be good enough to do it. Only thing I got left is safety glasses, which I got to round up. Because I will tell you one thing, with these wire wheels, the one thing you do not want to do is not wear safety glasses, because those little wires come out and you'll put an eye out in a heartbeat. Basically, I'll just go around and hit all the surfaces with this thing and this thing, depending on what I need to do and where I need to get. So let me get back with you. Okay, so all cleaned up. I managed to shine the pulley up a little bit on it. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. This thing's all wire brushed, and I still got to do like the tabletop and a couple little other pieces, but no big deal. So now, really all I need to do is let this thing dry really good, and then go ahead and wipe this thing down with thinner. But we're gonna leave it dry overnight first, and maybe tomorrow morning I'll wipe it down with thinner, and we'll do a quick little paint job on it in gray. You know, there you go. So still need to get 2 new grease fittings for it, which I need to actually take them down to the hardware store and get a couple. Haven't gotten to that point yet, but you know, we'll do that. And actually, maybe I'll run down there in the morning and do that, just because of the fact that I probably want to put the grease fittings in and tape them off before I paint it. That way I don't get tape in the bearing part, but or any paint in the bearing part. So if not, I can always just stuff a little rag or a piece of paper or something in there to keep the paint from going in there. Same with this up here, this hole, and there's some set screws holes on here too, but I think I'm just going to run the set screws in all the way, paint them, and paint the tops of the set screws all at one time. And then after the paint's almost dry, I'll back the set screw out so that it doesn't get froze up in there from the paint. But I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem there. So anyways, well, that's where we're at with this. I got table to do, which is just a light wire brushing, not a big deal. Looks like there's some scale on it, but I think that was from when it was casted, so that kind of is what it is. So let me go ahead and do that, and I think I'm going to let the pulley and stuff just keep soaking all night. So I will be back. Okay, so I'm back. Table's all wire brushed, ready to go. I took this thing out of the paint thinner. It spins nice and free now, or almost free. Way better than it was before anyways. Probably just a little bit of use will free it up the rest of the way, and some fresh grease, which I'll probably still have to try to dig some of that grease out of there. I'm hoping that just running it a little bit will heat up all that old grease, and I'll be able to pump some new grease in there, and that'll just rejuvenate these really good. But like I said, the bearings themselves are nice and tight, and I'm not too worried about them. Next thing is I'm just going to clean this thing up and get it ready for paint too. I was going to leave it soak all night, and I thought, well, if I do that, then by morning this thing wouldn't be ready to paint. So I figure I'll clean it up tonight. I did find, remember I was missing the set screw on this, and the brass rod, and the wooden pulleys. So I did find a bolt that I can just cut off and put a slot in, and it'll match all the rest of the set screws in here. So that's what we're going to use for a set screw. And then, I don't know, maybe tomorrow or the next day we'll work on the brass things. And I was looking at the brass things, and the one is in the tub, and they're going to be a little trickier to do than what I thought. I thought originally that they just had a little hole in the end of them that was drilled and tapped. Well, here they actually have a hole drilled all the way through them, and just the end of it was drilled and tapped, and then they have another drill hole coming down this way. And I have to do some checking, but it's either number one, to let air out when you tighten things up and push things in, or two, to put oil in. And if it's oil, then the holes going down will line up with the holes on the back side of this. If you look, there's a little hole right here on the back side of it. I don't know if you can see it in the light right there. There you go. There's a hole right here. If the hole on the brass tube lines up with this little hole in this one, actually it'll be on this one here. There's a hole in the back of this right here. So if I take that brass thing and it goes in there, and the hole in the brass lines up with this hole here, that I know is for oil. If it doesn't, then the only reason this hole is here is so that when I slide that brass tube in there, it'll slide all the way in and let the air out here. Otherwise, it'll just want to keep pushing itself out like a hydraulic cylinder. But anyways, that's where we're at. Okay, guys, so I'm back. I'm just taping up some of these pulleys and stuff. I got this all wiped down with thinner. It's all taped up. Basically, I'm just going to get it all ready to go for paint. It's still nighttime. I still haven't, I gave it a couple hours and it's dried off. So I'm just kind of taping this stuff off, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll paint it tonight. Maybe I won't. I took the spring out of here, by the way. Right here, this spring out, and went ahead and cleaned all this stuff up and cleaned the spring up. And that's another thing. I got all these things. Let me loosen this and turn it a little bit. I got all these extra things. Right there's the plate for the belt to ride in front of, and the spring, and this is the screw that holds the table down tight, so you can put it in position and tighten it. And then these are all the little nuts and bolts sitting on the top of the cigarette pack. I cut a little slot in the cigarette pack and tuck the bolt in there, and I paint all that stuff black. Don't pay attention to the cigarette pack. I don't smoke. My wife has that nasty habit, so sorry about that. But anyways, so next thing I gotta do is tape this up, and then I gotta throw some stuff inside. You know what? I know what I'll do. I'll put the old grease fittings inside these grease fitting holes. That way, if I do get paint on them, it doesn't really matter. And that'll take care of that problem. I'm not going to use them anyways, so that's what I'll do. We'll put the old grease fittings in the holes, and then just paint it. And I'll get a pair of new grease fittings when I get out tomorrow. So let me pause this, and I'll finish taping off this pulley. Nothing special about taping it off. You just put the tape on it the best you can and tape it off. So I will be back. Okay, so we got this all taped up. Pulley's taped. These are taped. This pulley's taped, which can't really turn it, so we won't do that. Yeah, everything's all taped up. Actually, I missed a little spot right there, but we'll get it. So the next thing to do is just do a little painting on this. Oh, I want to do one more thing. I want to go ahead and cut this set screw off and put a slot in it and make an actual set screw out of it. So that'll be the next thing I do real quick. In fact, let me get a black magic marker. And we'll just mark it and cut that thing off. And I'll just take a hacksaw and put a saw cut in it with a hacksaw to make the slot. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so I took my hacksaw, or I took my masking tape and wrapped it around the nut itself, and I put it in this vise and just tighten it up a little bit. Now I'm just going to take my hacksaw, put it in here, get it started, and just cut it off. And be very careful about it. I'm trying to tighten enough to cut it, but at the same time we don't want to squeeze the threads and make it not work right. Oops. Okay, let's retighten this thing up. We're about halfway through it anyways. Like I said, I'm not trying to screw my threads up on this thing at all. Just take our time with it. It might take a couple times, but we'll get it. Okay, that took it off. Okay, so now we will just slowly turn this thing sideways like this and put a slot in it for a screwdriver. Let me go ahead and do that and I'll get back with you. Okay, so that is done. We got our slot in it. Take it out of here. Blow it off. We've got to do a little cleanup on the sander, but right there is, and that's not going to focus, right there's what we got. I will probably just leave it in this tape, put it on the sander, and just kind of clean the edges up real quick. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so that was pretty quick and easy. Got it done. Should be able to unwrap it. Should be able to unwrap this thing and take it out of here. Maybe. Oh, this tape's pretty good stuff. Okay, let me get this tape off and I'll show you what it looks like in the machine. Okay, so here it is. It's in our set screws in there. My slot's off just a little bit, but it ain't gonna hurt nothing. That'll work just fine. So there you go. It's all ready to go, and now all we gotta do is paint it. Okay, so to paint this thing, it's gonna be relatively easy. I'm just gonna take a 5-gallon bucket and turn it upside down, put it on the ground, set my main sander on top of it, so it just kind of sits there and balances. And then these other parts, I'll probably just put them on another 5-gallon bucket and do the same exact thing. That way we can just paint everything all at once and kind of be done with it. Actually, I might hang this one from a wire. It might be easier to do that. Maybe the same thing with this grid. Hang it from a wire and just paint it hanging. So let me go ahead and find a couple of wires and we'll see where we're at. Okay, sorry, I didn't realize the camera was on. My hat's falling apart too. I got my sander right here and table hanging here, and the other thing, the other pulley arm are hanging right here. And I'm going to go ahead and actually I need to put grease fitting in there and tape that off. And then I'm going to go ahead and start painting these with a little bit of gray primer. Okay, I'm going to shut this camera off while I'm painting, so I really don't want to get any paint on my camera. Hey guys, I'm back. Let me go ahead and tilt this thing a little bit so you can see what's going on. Right. We're at a weird angle here, but there's the machine, table, pulley, everything's painted in gray primer. I'm going to let it dry for 15-20 minutes, and then I've got a can of Rust-Oleum gray paint, smoke gray. So that's the color it's going to be. And I have another can. If this can's been sitting on the shelf for a while, so if this can doesn't work, I do have another can of I think it's Valspar or something. So either way, it's going to get painted gray. So let me let this dry for a few minutes, and we will get this painted, and we'll be good to go. While we're waiting, I decided to just give this spring and all these little bolts and stuff a coat of black paint. So while we're waiting for the other stuff, the primer to dry, we'll go ahead and paint this. I'm going to paint this black too, and probably both sides. And I'll put it on. If the paint wears off, it wears off. It's not a big deal. It's the backing plate where the where the sanding belt rides against. So, you know, it kind of is what it is there. So let me go ahead and move my Sawzall out of the way so I don't paint it by accident. And we will paint this thing. These little kind of look cool with the black spring and stuff. Will really set things off on this sander. Not that we're looking for cool, we're just looking for function, but you know, kind of cool's okay too. And we'll just let those dry for a few minutes and give them another coat in a little bit. Okay, yeah, so I'm back with you. We got the sander all painted. I'm going to turn this camera around. I'm just going to kind of pan over the parts and show you what they look like. I moved the sander itself, the body of it, up on top of my workbench. So let me go ahead and pause this. I'll turn the camera around and let you take a look at them all painted. So right there it is, all painted up. Kind of hard to tell right now what it looks like, but we'll get it outside in a day like tomorrow, and we'll put everything together. Right here's the other two pieces, all painted up, and our black pieces are all painted. So we are definitely all painted up on these. Everything looks nice. Let me pause this. Okay, so we got all our pieces painted. Sander's painting. I'm just waiting for everything to dry really good, and I'm going to leave it dry kind of overnight because I'm in no big hurry really. So what I'll do is I'm going to stop this video here. This is going to be part 2, and I'm going to say thank you, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we will go ahead and make a part 3, and it'll be probably putting this thing together and probably doing those 2 little brass pieces and maybe turning the wooden wheels, and you know, then we'll be done. We'll have a good usable sander. So I'll see you on part 3.